As we speak, this is the first week back to school for primary and secondary school students. Some are moving from one class to another, one phase to another, one level to another. Others are moving into school, going to school for the first time, moving from primary to secondary for the first time. They are setting foot in a busy secondary school building, campus. There will be those amongst you who will have left your children crying and clinging to you or to their mums in nursery because they're not used to being without their parents. And you will have had to accompany them and give them support for the first couple of days, leaving them with their eyes full of tears because they're not used to being away from the parent. And then you see, after a day or two, that they have made one or two friends and they like the toys in the nursery, and they are happy to remain alone, and they are so absorbed that they don't even notice you. So there are those who have just joined nursery. There are those who have just joined primary school. They have graduated from nursery. It's amusing to see that some nurseries actually have a day at the end of the school year in which they celebrate graduation and give the children certificates and hats as though they were at university. You've grown up now, you're going to go to primary school. And this child who's been in nursery for 2 years looks at the ones who have been there for 1 year as small children. I'm older than he is, than she is. I've been here for a full year. And then children proudly wear their uniforms and they go into primary school and they are the youngest, and this place seems strange, full of hundreds of children running about, going to their classrooms, feeling confident, and these new ones feel a little bit intimidated. But by and by, they become the confident ones. Primary 7, and these children are now young adults. They have views on everything, on morals, on politics, on economics. They have interests in different subject areas. And they look back and they feel that they've grown up, and the small ones that they used to be, now the small ones in primary 1 and 2 appear very small indeed. But wait, they looked up to in the primary school, they look very grown up. For the ones in primary 1, 2 and 3, ask a 5-year-old, what's your wishes? They'd say, I wish I was 10 years old and I could do this. Ask a 10-year-old, they say, I want to be a grown-up. Now they move into secondary school. And in secondary school, all again, they're at the start, beginning. And there's this huge sea of children, a much rougher environment than primary school. Teenage life in the 21st centuries, the post-millennium kind of culture, millennials, that we're moving on from there now as well. It's a different world, a different language even. The nuances and the vocabulary and the playground culture and the culture of teenagers and adolescents and what they are exposed to and expected to deal with, their sensitivities and sensibilities and challenges and problems. So now we have the secondary school phase. And by, this all happens behind closed doors. You have 4 types of parents. Which category are you from? Which category am I from? You have the parents who take no interest whatsoever, rather more often than we'd wish to believe. For them, it's just a case of getting the kids off their hands, They're glad that the holidays are over. They like the luxury of the quiet in the house, and they trust their schools to do all the work. Not a good situation. They don't take an interest in the child's academic progress, in their behavior, in the school reports, in what is being taught in the curriculum. Hands off. It's delegated to somebody else. That's one category of parent. Rather more than you'd care to believe, have this attitude. Then you have the second type of parent. This parent believes that their child, their son and daughter, is an angel. Perfect. And whatever they say, they believe. It's well known in the educational sector in the whole country that children will exaggerate and turn parents against teachers, even if the teachers work them hard for their benefit, so they will perform well academically or correct them when they are going wrong. They will blame the teacher and tell the parent that they are being picked on. Sometimes this will be true, and sometimes it will be a lie, but the parents will not investigate. So you have the parent who believes that my child is perfect, and they will argue and quarrel with school teachers just to take the side of the child, not realizing that the child is one thing at home, another in the school, and another again in the masjid, and another again in the park and on the playground. They don't see the other side of their own child. Children are very different in front of their parents. They use a different language as well. They are different in the playground. With the way they talk to their friends is not the way they talk to their parents, or at least it shouldn't be. Parents should have a friendship with their children. That's a separate point. But what happens within teenage circles and within the circles of young people is very different often. And the discipline that might be there in front of the parents isn't necessarily there at school. So you have the second type of parent who always supports their kid, their child, without looking into the details, without reading between the lines, without making sure, and the teachers are enemy number one. Not a good sign. Then you have the third type of parent. The third type of parent is the one who believes that the teacher's always right, and if the child comes home with a complaint, the school makes contact, then this child has dishonored me. You're, for the South Asians, the Desi approach. Meri izzat, khabardar, tumhari koi shikayat kal se aayi, ghar se nikal dunga, tumhari. So this attitude, wanting to disown the child and being frustrated and angry with the child because the child has brought shame to the parent because they've been called into the school, such parents can be very violent, inappropriately so. No wisdom, no understanding that the child needs support as well. If the child has gotten into trouble, then perhaps it's a partnership that's required. The parent has to support the child through that phase, and the parent and teacher have to be on the same page. So now you have the parent who takes the side of the teacher, and the child is left on their own. And they may have their own challenges. Now the teacher and the parent are on one side and the child on the other. That child's going to feel very alienated even if they are in the wrong. If the child is in the wrong, the parent needs to support them, to educate them, to advise them, to nourish them so they can flourish. Then you have the fourth type of parent, the best type. The first one, hands off, no interest. The second one, my child's always right, the teacher's always wrong. The third one, the teacher's always right, the child's always wrong. The fourth one, the moderate, sensible, compassionate mum and dad who understand that this is a partnership between the parents, the child, and the teachers. It's a three-way relationship. Everyone is a stakeholder. Everyone has to play their part. It's the role of the parents to take the child to school on time with the appropriate resources, books and pens and pencils and stationery, uniform, anything necessary, and to get them to school on time, to make sure that they go to bed on time, to make sure that they do their homework, to make sure that they get to school with an attitude to learn, and to try to ensure that the house environment is good for education as well. A peaceful environment, a harmonious environment in which there's the child has peace of mind and they're not stressed with their parents' problems, their family problems, all of those things, holidays being holidays, red lines being red lines, rest times being rest times, fun being fun, having breakfasted, children go to school red-eyed and hungry because they go to bed late, up with their phones and tablets, parents don't pop their head around the door to see what's happening, and the children don't sleep well, they're up all night talking to friends, playing computer games, scanning the internet, and then in the morning they're too late, they're not up, they're not having breakfast, they're going into class with red eyes and they're tired. Not an ideal situation for learning. That's the parents' responsibility. And then on the way home to ask, how was your day? Beta, beti, son, daughter, Aisha, Abdullah, how was your day today? Did everything go well? What was good today? What did you learn today? What did not go well today? Have you got any homework? Are you feeling well? Do you have any problems? That exchange, the school run should be a positive opportunity for parents to receive their own blood and flesh and to show them affection. So this is the parent's responsibility. And then also, if the child is getting any wrong ideas in their head, then the parent needs to teach them morals as well, the influence of society and friendships and what have you. What is it that they're being taught? What is it they're picking up and learning? What is it they're picking up and learning? Children don't just learn from books, they learn from everything. And then the teacher is a stakeholder. It is the teacher's responsibility, as they call it, Ghafoor, getting it right for every child. Every teacher should be looking out for every child. Does the child have any special need for support? Are they flourishing? Are they struggling? Are they feeling unwell? Is this child just making excuses because they don't want to study? Or are they actually unwell and they have a migraine? What is the problem? Is the child embarrassed because they've been called out? Does there need to be a conversation, or is there a standoff between the teacher and the child? Teachers have their responsibilities. They are stakeholders. Are they ensuring that they are flagging up problems with the child's development and education on time? They're stakeholders too. And then at the center of all of this is the student themselves, the child. Child-centered learning. The teacher is a stakeholder, the parent is a stakeholder, the child is a stakeholder. Is the child pulling their weight, doing what they need to do? Sometimes young people don't perform because their expectation isn't expressed clearly. You get a child into trouble for doing something that they don't know that they shouldn't be doing. We have to teach them everything. Social skills, emotional intelligence, conversational etiquettes, netiquettes, how to behave on the internet, respect for teachers and for other students, not to be a bully and not to allow yourself to be bullied, having self-confidence, when to speak and when to remain silent, how to express yourself. One of the things, by the way, let me just mention this in passing. Those of you who are parents or will be parents, one of the best things we can do for our children, so simple. One of the best things we can do for our children is to talk to them and have long, interesting conversations with them at all ages. You might think this is a simple thing. It's good for their mental health. It's good for their emotional intelligence. It's good for their assertiveness and confidence. It's good for their ability to express themselves. It's good for them to become well-rounded citizens and human beings and Muslims. All of those things and more. It's good for them to develop balanced opinions, exchange and bounce ideas. Parents don't talk to their children. They're too busy with their own affairs and work and their own routines and their own phones and their own social media and their own friendships and commitments as well. It's very important. And these moments might be brief, but they are incredibly valuable if our day and night and week and weekend is punctuated with such occasions where it's family time, it's time for the child. And you can have a different time for each child. Monday is for this child, Tuesday is for this child, where you give them that extra time, whatever it may be, whatever works for you. But that exchange is essential. In the absence of this, we have a generation of mute young people who can't express their emotions effectively, and so they are frustrated or unhappy or afraid or nervous or anxious or angry. They don't know how to express it, or worried or concerned or struggling, and nobody prizes it out of them. Nobody gives them an opportunity to open up. And this affects their literacy, their ability to write. A child that can't speak much because they're not good at conversational skills, might not be good at expressing themselves in writing either, because the ideas don't flow. You need words to describe emotions, positive words and negative words, how to describe your mental health, how to describe your physical health. If you don't have words, when an infant is crying, the midwife and the nurse and the doctor and the parent have to use their intuition, and they have to think laterally as well as all the essential science, because the child can't speak. Do I have an earache or a stomachache? The child doesn't know how to express themselves. Adults are like children these days, many times. We see this. They can't express themselves. It's referred to sometimes as the what culture. They just have a one word kind of monosyllabic adolescence. They just don't know how to say a full sentence. Conversational skills, which they will need in interviews, which they will need in call centers, which they will need in offices, which they will need in courts of law, which they will need wherever they go in order to succeed in life. And they don't have those skills. And so we can help them develop those skills just by talking to them. And then to be grounded and rooted. Who am I and what is my identity and where do I belong? So if we don't talk to them about our history as parents, who are we? Where did we grow up? Where were we born? What our grandparents and parents did, and how our family came to live here, and so on and so forth. This is the mother's side of relations, and this is the father's side, and the different career paths. There's so much to talk about. It's more enjoyable, if the heart is in the right place, to talk to your own children than it is to watch a TV program. If there's any love there, this is more enjoyable. And rather than everybody watching their own programs, this is another point. If you must watch TV, watch something which is family appropriate and watch it together and then discuss it with your children. So it becomes an educational opportunity rather than something which is done behind closed doors. The parents doing what the child will be embarrassed to hear about. The child's doing what the parents are embarrassed to hear about. But coming back to our point, we are at the start of the new school term. And there are responsibilities upon every single one of us. And to educate our children for the world is a parental wajib. It's a Sharia obligation. Our Sharia, the fiqh of Islam, does not just talk about teaching aqaid and ibadat to our children, and not just about mu'amalat and masail and ahkam rulings. Our deen and the fuqaha talk about the response. See, when you talk about haqqul hadana, this is custody rights. If parents are separated and divorced, then who brings the child up? Both parents have a role here. This is something that Muslims need to come back to. And parents should learn to, in a mature and sensible way, share that responsibility and not use the children for a tug of war, as a tool against each other, an emotional tool. And parents should not fill their kids' ears against their other parent, their other spouse, if there's a separation. Each of the parents should teach the child that, look, what's happening between mum and dad is between mum and dad. But you need to respect your mum when you have your weekdays with your mum or your weekend, and vice versa. When you go to your dad, and relatives and families shouldn't fill children's ears with toxins and poison against their own blood. It's not an appropriate way. Taqwa, taqwa, taqwa. After separation and after divorce as well. So the huquq. So haqqul adhan. When we look at this chapter of fiqh, the fuqaha talk about the responsibility of mum and dad to raise that child so they're ready for the world. That's part of the responsibility of parents, which continues after separation and divorce. So basically, teaching your children how to conduct themselves in this dunya, what kind of careers to take up, how to earn halal, what career paths are appropriate, how to become decent citizens, valuable human beings who have something to say and contribute to society, a legacy for you, your posterity and what you will leave behind in this dunya. This is our responsibility as part of our deen. And so my friends, brothers and sisters, those of you who have children at school, be involved in that process in a mature and informed way. Fulfill your responsibility towards your children. There is the family circle. It is so important. The child who is in a settled family house will be so much more confident at school and in their adult life and in their own relationship when they get married and have a family of their own. The family circle. And involvement in what's happening at school. Awareness of what's being taught and what's happening in the classroom and on the playground. And involvement, interaction with the children. Are they settled and happy? How can we assist them? What can we advise them on? Do they need extra support from us or tuition, whatever form it may take? Number 2. Number 3, the Islamic element. What are we teaching them in terms of deen? Don't withdraw your children from the Dini halqa because they are a teenager and they have to give their Nat 5 and higher. It will not have a negative effect. Masajid are very considerate and conscious of these pressures and will allow for your children to take time off when they need to, but don't withdraw them. Children who attend the evening Islamic studies classes flourish at school as well. It does not undermine that. Again and again we see evidence of this. You would think that the hifz is a very difficult thing. It is. Allah Ta'ala makes it easy. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. But you'll find invariably children in hifz classes do better at school and university. You can check the stats. You can do your own research on this. There are plenty of examples in this masjid and in every other. Alhamdulillah. So this idea that coming to the masjid in the evening is going to undermine, no, the spiritual aspect. Let me just mention something to you, a spiritual point here. I trust that many of you have children. Look at the face of your child. Look at the face of your child when they come home from school. Look at the emotions on your child's face. Look at the face of your child. Read the face. The face is a book you can read into a person's face. Read your child's face when they come home from school. Then send them to the masjid. They will have done fresh wudu, changed their clothes, come to the masjid, sit in a Quran class on the same day. And then they come out of the masjid, any masjid, your local masjid. Read their face after they've gone to school and then gone to the masjid on the same day. Rationally speaking, you would think that they're going to be more tired and their face is going to be completely, I've had enough now, after the masjid class. Be a witness yourself to your own child's face. When the child comes home from the masjid, they'll be beaming, there'll be nur on their faces, and you'll see it if you care to look at it. When they wash their bodies from the grime of the day, and they do wudu, and put on their sunnah clothing, and they go into the house of Allah, the angels are praying for them. When they come home, the angels are still praying for them. And this spiritual interaction with the book of Allah, which is not from this dunya, it's Allah's kalam. This interaction will illuminate their hearts and you'll see the impact on their behavior. Two groups of children at school, the same school, in the same class, Muslims. One group comes to the local masjid and the other doesn't. Watch them as they leave the school. Watch their behavior patterns. Watch their activity, their whole kind of person and character in the playground, outside of the school. Ask your own children about this. In your class, do you have a student who's coming to a local masjid, studying Quran, studying Islamic study? How is the behavior of the children in your class? It's black and white. It's very, from a dini point of view, it's very clear. They may be perfectly decent children. That's a separate point. I'm talking about this from a spiritual point of view. So we need to understand that this is not undermining their education. It's contributing to it. This education will make them valuable to mum and dad as a decent child who respects their parents, valuable member of the family, valuable as a sibling, valuable as a husband or wife, valuable as a citizen of society. Your criminal sorts are not the ones who are devoted to their spiritual activities and spiritual routines. Those aren't the criminal sorts. Quite the opposite. So let us not see these things at odds. So let me just conclude by saying that at the start of the school term, we are all stakeholders. Parents, children, teachers in masajid, madrasas, maktabs. All of this comes together. And we have to all work together and see our responsibility so that we can produce tomorrow's gems, heroes, champions, flag bearers of Deen and Islam and valuable members of society. May Allah grant us tawfiq to fulfill our responsibility and obligations. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu ala nabiyil kareem.